Hi, everyone. I'm Steve here every week with Dr. Nario. Thanks for being here, Doc.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me again. Always a pleasure.
We're going to talk about creatine. Very popular topic, amazing supplement. Just so you guys know, Dr. Nario is with Biointegrative Health Center in Reno, Nevada. If you want to know more about what they do there, you can check them out online and see all the treatments and things that they do. So, and they treat a variety of different people, ages, athletes, older people, you name it. So, all right. So, creatine monohydrate, we're going to talk about pyruvate, I guess a combination. Creatine monohydrate is the most studied substance on the face of the earth, probably. Very safe and incredible benefits in multiple areas. But you said before we turn this on that some people have a problem with it doesn't quite dissolve completely. It doesn't bother me. It has no taste, has no taste at all. I can put it in water, this much water and drink it, no problem. But sometimes it has a little chalky texture, not taste, but texture. And I guess that bothers some people. So you were
Right.
talking about that. That's why they're trying to invent all these new creatine substances that maybe don't do that. So
Mhm.
can you explain that?
Right. Well, you're right, Steve. With again, today we're going to talk about a supplement that's been unfairly labeled as just for bodybuilders. That's what we think of creatine, but it's quietly becoming one of the most powerful tools in anti-aging medicine. The supplement is called creatine, as you mentioned. And no, taking creatine will not suddenly turn you into a CrossFit athlete or make your clothes shrink or require you to start taking gym selfies. What it will do is support muscle preservation, brain energy, mitochondrial health, strength as we age. And today we'll compare different forms. So actually, there are going to be two predominant forms out there that you will see on labels when you buy supplements, and that would be monohydrate and pyruvate. And this will help you decide which one actually makes sense for longevity.
Okay. So first of all, they cost basically the same.
Okay, so that's going to be different. So that's going to be one of the points that we're going to be bringing out. The newer ones are actually more expensive. The
More
reason for that is,
development.
yeah, I mean, pyruvate is the most common new kid in the block, but there are other ones also. But the thing here is they're trying to make creatine more soluble in order for you to take it so easy as a consumer that it's not chalky, it's not bulky, it's not like getting stuck in your throat. So that's why these new types of creatines were created.
Yeah. Okay. So what about the research? I know they've done so much research on creatine monohydrate.
Right.
Does the creatine say pyruvate? Does that basically have the same effect, just as much benefit?
Good question. So let's start with the basics here. So let's reframe or define creatine. So creatine is not a muscle supplement. It's an energy buffer. People think it's all about the gym, right? The muscle, the bulk. Creatine helps regenerate ATP, the energy currency of your cells. So as we age, muscle ATP declines and mitochondrial efficiency drops. Strength, balance, and reaction time fall, and even brain energy metabolism slows down. That's why creatine is now being studied for sarcopenia, fall prevention, cognitive aging, fatigue, and mitochondrial support. And if anti aging is about maintaining function, creatine checks a lot of those boxes. So let's start with the classic. Creatine monohydrate is bound to water molecules. So 88% mostly of pure creatine by weight is by weight, and absorption is nearly 100%. So that's GI absorption. Muscle stores saturate reliably. It's the most studied from like a form, literally thousands of studies out there. Benefits, strength and power, preserving lean muscle with aging, supports brain energy, helps with exercise tolerance, and extremely cost effective. Downsides, mild bloating and temporary water retention, and also the clumpiness that I just mentioned to you. That water is inside muscle cells, which is actually part of how it works, but it can scare people who fear the scale more than the weaknesses. So, again, anti aging tip here, losing muscle ages you far faster than gaining 2 pounds of intracellular water. So, that's monohydrate.
Okay. So the pyruvate is going to be more soluble, or the monohydrate doesn't
Right.
bother me at all. Sometimes a little residue sits in the bottom of your cup, but I always mix it with my amino acids, which have some flavor. So I don't even know the creatine's in there, but that's just how I do it. So tell
Right.
us
And
about the
also,
pyru. Go
yeah,
ahead.
so the pyruvate is basically the fancy cousin, right? So this form binds creatine to pyruvic acid, which is a key player in energy cellular metabolism. So on paper, it sounds amazing. Creatine supports ATP recycling, pyruvate feeds the Krebs cycle, double energy support, right? But here's what the data actually shows: higher solubility, meaning mixes easier, thus less clamp, slightly higher peak blood levels of creatine, and some early studies suggest small endurance benefits. And here's the reality: only 60% creatine by weight compared to the 88% of monohydrate. You need a higher dose to match monohydrate, as you could see. No proven advantage in muscle uptake, no superior anti aging outcomes, much more expensive, unfortunately. In direct comparisons, no consistent performance or longevity advantage over monohydrate, unfortunately, again. Think of creatine pyruvate like a luxury car. It looks impressive, costs more, gets you in the same place, but it's definitely your bang for your buck still on monohydrate. If you have fancy, if you have some extra cash, sure, the pyruvate kind of like it's a worth a try.
So this would be, it's not any worse. I mean, it's just as good. It works just as good, is what I think is what you're saying, right?
Monohydrate carries more benefit for the muscle just because of the amount that it carries. 60% creatine in pyruvate, 88% in monohydrate. So if it's all about the muscle that we're talking about, really monohydrate is your guy. But don't kind of disregard the fact that creatine still needs to be filtered in your kidneys. So kidneys play a crucial role in relation to getting the excess creatine out of your body once it gets metabolized. So may it be pyruvate, may it be monohydrate. You always hear about the story about, oh man, my kidneys got all messed up when I was taking creatine because you're not hydrating. So
Have you really heard that story?
well, again, that's something that's in the literature that we always, especially for me, if as I educate my patients about creatine, that I need to make sure you're actually going to be drinking a lot of water. And how is that evident? Because there is a test in your blood that's called creatinine. So creatinine is basically related to creatine. So as we see creatinine go higher and higher, that's a clue for us clinicians to say that, hey, kidneys are starting to get affected by this. But again, this is very low in terms when you talk about creatine producing kidney failure. I rarely see that, even for let's say people who doesn't drink much. But again, as clinicians, we always want to guide them properly, and even hydration. You know, it's not only for creatine, but it's systemic detoxification, delivery of electrolytes, especially as an athlete. So there's so many benefits just by hydrating alone.
So yeah, that's a big deal. People always say drink water when you're using monohydrate or pyruvate or whatever kind of creatine that you're using.
Right.
So you don't really see a difference in the benefits.
Again, the benefits would be going into more of the monohydrate in terms of muscle. And again, here's the thing: when you talk about the significance of this, would be really more of solubility. And then the claim to fame of pyruvate is it gets into the Krebs cycle and produces more, I guess, aerobic endurance and energy production. That has not yet been shown on studies yet, but there are ongoing studies. And you have to remember there are other cousins of creatine, creatine hydrochloride, for example. They attach it to hydrochloride again. Why? They want to make it soluble again, easier, I guess, mixing. But this one is the one that actually kind of got head to head with monohydrate, and strength, muscle growth, and performance kind of got head to head with the results of monohydrate. There's another one, creatine alpha ketoglutarate. So ketoglutarate, as we know, is a Krebs cycle intermediate and a glutamine precursor. And again, this is something that's being given to patients who does not react well to the typical monohydrate and it produces GI problems. So the alpha ketoglutarate version does not produce that. But again, the studies are not close to what monohydrate brings to the table in terms of muscle results. So that's why all these cousins, all of these lookalikes, still doesn't par up with our classic monohydrate.
Okay, I was just going to say it kind of sounds like what you're saying so far with even all this new research and everything, that overall creatine monohydrate, counting everything, is still the winner.
Is still king. Yep, that's what it is. So again, just to guide our viewers here, you don't need bodybuilding doses here for anti-aging. We need 3 to 5 grams per day. No loading phase is needed if it's anti-aging, all right? Take with food or anytime as your convenience kind of dictates that. And hydrate normally, as I said, normally, not excessively. Sometimes, oh yeah, you have to like get a hose in there, put it in your mouth. No, just as I said, just to make sure you hydrate, and it will make sure that the kidneys filtered out properly. This is about consistency, not intensity. So creatine works quietly in the background, protecting function over time.
So I've heard other doctors say that um, to get the benefits for your brain, you need to take a higher dosage. So the 3 to 5 is going to help. It's going to go to the muscle. But if
Mhm.
you want more left to go to the brain, I've heard a lot of doctors mention that you need to get up to like 15 grams of creatine. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. So those are actually some of the studies have been showing that in the higher dosing in relation to creatine now acting not only on the muscular side of things, but also in the neurological benefits. Again, the studies are there. Increasing 5 grams is really not that of an issue, especially if you're checking kidney functions along with this. But I have seen protocols of such, especially for Alzheimer's patients, right? Or dementia patients who actually have gone 8, 10 milligrams, sorry, grams. And this is something that I have seen giving benefit to the patient. But you have to remember, these patients were on other protocols as well. Is it creatine that's doing that? I don't know. But my main point here is people had gone up safely towards these doses. And not only does it affect cognitive function, but it also affects other things, even like, yeah, sarcopenia prevention, even organ dysfunction. So those benefits are still out there being studied, but going up at 5, you probably need to have, of course, medical guidance for that, and
To go
also
over
you
5?
right, you get monitored. But yes, I do not disagree with higher dosing giving benefits to the body.
Yeah. So it's interesting to me that a substance like this that is so studied, they're still studying it and they're
Yep.
still playing around with it.
Uh-huh.
I mean, the research is pretty obvious on this one, but yet they're still trying to tweak it and studying it even more. That's kind of interesting, don't you think?
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned to you, creatine has been now explored to. So we mentioned about muscle, we mentioned about brain. The other two that are being processed now in terms of studies would be mitochondrial health and also longevity. So those are, as you can see, as it expounds, and we thought we knew everything about creatine right now, but we probably don't, because as you can see, research has been exploring more potential for this specific supplement.
Well, I mean, I would guess that with all the research coming out saying that, it helps ATP, it helps you fill the the cells with ATP, I would think that it would also be benefiting the mitochondria just
Yeah.
because of that.
Right, right. Well, the thing here is creatine kind of got its claim to fame in the bodybuilding world initially, until, of course, they kind of like, hey, maybe we can do this and expound coverage and use it in other specific conditions. So that's how it kind of got its momentum going in relation to other benefits now that we know about.
Well, it's very fascinating. If you guys have questions, put them in the comment section, or if you have thoughts, put them in the comment section. So, any last thoughts, Doc, on this?
Yeah. So again, creatine is basically it's pretty safe, right? And the thing here is you don't have to fear this. And then it's cheap, especially if you pick monohydrate. It's affordable. Get it from good quality sources, studies, rely on the studies as it moves forward in our scientific world. And then again, monohydrate is really kind of like easier on the pockets and also the effects that you expect it to be. Pyruvate is not harmful. It's just sometimes it's an add-on. It's an extra punch. If you have that money, sure, go ahead. But the benefits really kind of falls into monohydrate still. And if anti-aging is about staying strong, sharp, and independent, creatine deserves a seat on that table for sure.
Now, we should mention that because you mentioned quality, that you want to get a source that is third party tested, right? Because some of this stuff comes from foreign countries and there's metals and just junk in it. So even though it's tested and researched, you still want to make sure that your source is third party testing their product, right?
Yep, you don't want it to be made in the garage of your friend, of that guy in the back alley. So for sure,
I
I
will
definitely
make
agree.
sure I do not get my creatine from my neighbor.
Correct. I agree.
All right. Well, Dr. Nario, as always, we appreciate your insight and the things that you do the research on. So thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you, Steve, for having me again. As we all know, that knowledge is power. And thank you for letting me provide you with edge on longevity and health maintenance, which I call the biological edge or the bio edge.